All right. This is from Havoc. And I was really, really, really intrigued by the title. How refueling, rearming, repairing might be amazing in Star Citizen, but the thumbnail is more related to Pyro, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. You gotta scroll up a little bit. Surviving the danger, and yeah, it looks a little Pyro-y in the thumbnail. So I was very intrigued by this video. I'm kind of excited. And we'll have to see. If you hear a dog crying in the background, yeah, we just got a new puppy, so I apologize. But let's see what this is all about.
What it'll be like when refueling, rearming, and repairing your ship in Star Citizen aren't just simple tasks, but core parts of how you survive and succeed in the verse. As we get closer to...
I mean, I feel like refueling, unfortunately, might not be as useful in Pyro based on all the stations.
To the release of 4.0, the possibilities are getting more complex, and the risks could be even higher. Today we're diving into some mechanics that could really change how we keep our ships in top shape. I'm talking refueling, rearming, and repairing. 3 game loops that have already started to emerge, but could evolve into something way more strategic. Whether you're out in deep space running low on fuel, trying to fix your ship on the fly, or hunting down rare ammo for your next big fight, things could be a lot more detailed in the future. Keep in mind, much of this...
I'm gonna like double on that and say it's not that they could be, they have to be. If they're not, we're gonna feel very similar to the way we feel now, where we're just it feels lacking. It feels like we're just floating around in the game for little to no reason, right? At least for
speculation. So, as always, take this with a grain of salt. Now let's break down some of my ideas of how logistics could be amazing.
Speculation, which is fine.
And by the end of this video, if you enjoyed this discussion and feel I deserve it and would like to see more quality Star Citizen content, smash that like button and consider supporting the channel by clicking the subscribe button so you can stay informed.
All right, I don't think we watched a video from his forever. So there's the link. That's Havoc's video, and then you can get to his channel through that video. I did message him, and he said it was cool to watch this. So for any of those fun commenters who say I'm doing bad things, I ask everyone.
Now let's face it, keeping your ship running smoothly in Star Citizen isn't exactly the simplest task right now. And we're just scratching the surface. As the game grows, so will the complexity of these mechanics.
You know what's kind of funny is I saw a Reddit post the other day of somebody's ship that like had just sat in a hangar for a few days, and it just was super dirty. Like the wear and tear mechanics exist, but we never seen them because your ship always explodes or is always ruined, or you always have to claim it. I think it was an M50. I saw a picture of it. And yeah, like one of the devs in our Discord was like, yeah, you never see that because your ships are always exploding for like bugs and stuff. But that stuff is really cool. And I was like, oh, I never knew that stuff existed. So like, I think that there is a decent amount of ship stuff that's kind of a thing, but because of all the issues with the game, we don't get to see it.
Imagine the future where it's not just about landing at a station and clicking repair all. What if the very fuel you choose or the munitions you load drastically changes the outcome of your missions?
Fuel you choose is interesting. Ammunition you load, if that's not a thing, I would be very surprised and I would be very disappointed. I really want ammo types to be a choice in both FPS weapons and ships, because then you start getting into the nitty-gritty of, oh, I have to play the game to earn those things. Oh, I have to buy those things from somebody in the game that crafted them and put them up on a market, right? That stuff really needs to be a thing for this game to survive the long term, in my opinion.
One of the major challenges that we'll be facing very soon is being able to effectively refuel, repair, and rearm our ships in hostile environments. particularly in places like Pyro. Pyro will be a far more dangerous system, and players won't have the same conveniences or infrastructure that Stanton offers.
It's weird. We're all concerned that it's going to have too much infrastructure. I mean, type 1 in chat if you're worried about the number of stations and the lack of self-reliance or whatever. I think we just reacted to a video yesterday from Ray's guide about self-reliance. And I feel like all the things that we thought about Pyro has changed dramatically over the years. That self-reliance is no longer a thing. We're in the NPC reliance game, where I go to an NPC station to repair. I go to an NPC outpost to repair. I buy everything from NPCs. We're not even reliant on ourselves, let alone each other. And my hope for Pyro was we were way more going to be reliant on ourselves and each other, whether it's people in your org as part of yourselves, but then random other people, and unfortunately it's not quite looking that way. And we'll have to see, because they did sneakily say something on an ISC recently where it does sound like when you come to Stanton or when you come to Pyro, you got to choose a side. And if you choose a side, what do you gain and what do you lose? That's what I'm curious about. So we'll have to see. But I still feel like everything we interact with, everything we purchase, everything we need doesn't come from us. It comes from them. I'm tired of that, man.
Being able to repair or rearm your ship in EVA or on the surface of a planet, whether you've just taken some light damage or suffered a full soft death, is going to be essential for survival. Sure, we can currently repair our ships to a point, but it's somewhat limited. You can patch things up, but there's no comprehensive system that lets you fully repair or rearm in the field.
I mean, the engineering demo's given that vibe, but we'll see.
In a place like Pyro, where resources are scarce and danger is around every corner, having the ability to get your ship back to full operational status without relying on a station or outpost is going to be a game changer. Now, if CIG can implement mechanics that allow players to manage their ship's maintenance effectively in these hostile environments, it could transform the way we approach combat and exploration. But for now, we're still waiting to see how they'll expand these systems.
Like, he's focusing on hostile environments. Does it have to be a hostile environment? I don't think so. I've been running cargo all day, all week, with the cargo hauling missions and everything. And do I have to manage my stuff? I hope so, This dude's on so much copium. Calm down. He's not saying this is the way it's going to be. He's saying if they do these things, it'll be fun, right? So calm down on, like, he said, hey, take everything I say with a grain of salt and all that stuff. So, yeah, don't be mean. He understands.
First off, let's talk about fuel quality. Right now, refueling is pretty straightforward, but what if that changes? Imagine a system where the fuel you purchase isn't all the same. You could have basic, low-grade fuel that gets the job done but leaves your ship running less efficiently. Maybe your quantum jumps take longer or burn more fuel. On the flip side, there's high-quality fuel, sourced from specific locations that make your ship run smoother, cuts down on travel time, and maybe even gives you a performance boost in combat.
This is the one that I think is the most out there. It was there high-grade and low-grade quality fuel?
High-end fuel could become a hot commodity available only at certain locations or after completing specific missions. Now, these unique locations could also create a very PvP centralized environment where players are fighting over this resource. Suddenly, fuel isn't just fuel. It's a strategic resource you need to consider when planning long missions.
Yeah,
this creates new gameplay around resupply runs and resource management. Now, there could also be various other qualities of fuel as well. It doesn't have to be restricted to just the two types. And speaking of risk, how about hazardous refueling? Imagine there are volatile fuel types that you can purchase, but refueling with them requires precise timing and maybe even specialized equipment. A misstep during the fuel transfer and boom, your ship's in pieces, or maybe your cargo gets fried. Picture the scenario. You're in a group mission and you've chosen to go with high performance.
All right, just real quick. I found it, so I'm pulling it down. They say how the ships are going to change, but I don't think that there's any grade fuel. But that's it. I don't see the word grade anywhere. But I will control F on it. Uh-oh. Here we go. Let's say a gas cloud in space is a mixture of ammonia, hydrogen, and nitrogen. Ammonia would be the most efficient, dense fuel, so you may be tempted to scoop it, but only 9% of the gas's composition, whereas nitrogen is 40%. That means it will take you over 4 times as long to get the same amount of ammonia plasma as nitrogen plasma. On the other hand, ammonia plasma is a higher grade and sells for more. So they just say sells for more. We'll have to see about this. Yeah, it's like ethanol versus non-ethanol. We'll see if they do this. He might be onto something where this is a possibility that it could happen. All right.
And volatile fuel that could give your ship the edge in combat.
Bro, I want to punch my chair so bad watching this video, but only because he has shown the best UI they ever made that nobody gets to use because refueling isn't a viable thing to do in the game. It is so annoying. I love this UI. I love the interactions that they gave us with the refueling mechanics, and we never get to use them. It's so frustrating.
However, refueling during the mission requires skillful maneuvering and the right timing, adding an element of tension. A failed transfer could leave you without a resupply ship, forcing you to either come up with a solution or call the mission off until you can get another starfarer to meet up with your fleet. Another idea is special types of race fuels that give racing ships better performance and handling at the cost of not being able to equip weapons due to the higher volatility that could ignite if the weapons are used or equipped.
I'm down for this as long as it's not easy to just buy this stuff from an NPC.
This would create some differences between normal everyday ships and racing ships. For fleet operations, the potential grows even more interesting. Imagine larger refueling vessels like the Starfarer being able to connect to multiple ships at once. This could involve
Let's work on it connecting to one first.
Flexible fuel lines, and the crew members of that Starfarer could physically grab those fuel lines,
to one first.
Drag them over to nearby ships, and manually attach them to the refueling port to begin the fuel transfer. Once the transfer is complete, they detach the lines and move on to the next group of ships. This kind of hands-on refueling process could create a very interesting dynamic for larger crews.
It would be cool in an Idris,
making teamwork and coordination essential for efficient resupply operations. Not only would this make refueling more immersive, but it could also change how fleet dynamics work. Mission commanders wouldn't just have to think about attack strategies. They'd need to coordinate refueling in real time.
Isn't refueling already in game? Yeah, but it doesn't work.
Ensuring that all ships are topped off and ready to continue the mission. This could add a layer of strategy to larger fleet missions, where refueling is just as crucial as combat itself. Now let's explore a different approach to quantum fuel resupply.
The whole basis of his video here is that if Pyro's truly dangerous, we're going to need to do these things. We don't know how dangerous Pyro is anymore.
In Star Citizen, quantum fuel is actually refined from quantanium, a volatile mineral that must be carefully mined and processed. So imagine being able to gather quantanium on the go during a mission. You can mine it from asteroids or planetary deposits, using your ship's mining lasers or a specialized FPS tool for ground-based extraction. Now obviously you would only be able to use mining ships for this, which would require you to create a bigger support structure. Once gathered, you'd need a portable refinery or onboard equipment to convert that raw quantanium into quantum fuel for your ships.
Just buy a Galaxy, right? Just buy a Galaxy.
It'll create an exciting high-stakes mechanic, especially if the volatile nature of quantanium means that you have a limited
or whatever the name of the ship is that just does everything.
After all, the Erastra has a refinery on board the ship and has detachable cargo bags that are similar to the Mole. If the mounting points are similar to the Starfarer, for example, this could allow for a way to quickly transfer the bags from the Arastra to the Starfarer.
Yep.
Alternatively, there could be pockets of pure Quantanium in space, areas where the mineral exists in its refined form. Ships equipped with hydrogen intakes could also modify those systems to process those Quantanium pockets into quantum fuel,
I don't know
giving
about
players
that.
another creative way to refuel without relying on traditional stations. Whether mining Quantanium or scooping up pure Quantanium from space, these methods would offer deeper, more immersive options for staying fueled during long journeys into unexplored or hostile regions. Now let's consider specialized ammunition types.
Before we move on to the part that I think is the most important, which is what he's talking about now, you really want players who do not want to be involved in missions, like the I want to watch Netflix and play the game players, like miners, cargo haulers, salvagers. You want them to be useful to you when you don't want to do any of that stuff. So you really don't want to allow the player to be able to do everything. Like he mentioned, like maybe there'll be Quantanium, and he did make it sound like it would be a rare occurrence, but maybe there would be just raw, there would be refined Quantanium just sitting there for you. You know what I mean? Yeah, Eve players just mine and watch Netflix, right? That's not a very Star Citizen thing, but I think a lot of players are out there that don't want to do missions and don't want to do combat, anything like that, right? They want to be a part of something, or feel a part of something, but they don't want to be, hey, I got to be on time and do that. Like it's I play the game in my own time kind of players, you know what I mean? And yeah, but you could be part of a bigger whole in that way, and it's I enjoy that kind of gameplay. So I don't want the people who I'm supposed to be supplying to be able to skip over me. I want my lane and you stay in your lane, but if we put our two lanes together, we get significantly more efficient, right?
Imagine that certain munitions like EMP missiles, seismic charges, or advanced torpedoes are only available at certain outposts or after completing challenging missions.
What if they're only available from players? What if CIG seeds the world with just basic shit and then we do the rest? But fine. Reputation-based rewards, all that stuff. They've said they wanted to do that forever. They're going to do it. So
suddenly rearming becomes more important than restocking.
I don't think I'm going to get what I want.
A quest for the best gear. Do you take the time to hunt down rare ordnance for your next big battle, or stick with the standard loadout and hope it's enough?
Why not?
These decisions could add a lot of...
I mean, you could get both, but you got to lean more in one direction. If I wanted them to lean more in one direction, I would want them to lean more in the player's direction.
To the gameplay, especially for players who love optimizing their loadouts for specific missions. Larger ships might need specialized drones or equipment to handle specific types of ammo, but there's even more potential when it comes to managing munitions. In fact, using cargo containers to store extra weapons...
I'm just stopping here because I'm just thinking about this game that me and Burks played. I can't remember the name of it anymore. And we never played it again, but it didn't mean that it wasn't fun. It's just, my life and my schedule is at the worst fucking time for playing with anybody. And I'm just thinking about like this box here. And we were in a multi-crew ship, but we had to load ammo in for people in turrets and stuff. Like we literally physically had to load the ammo in that they were firing. And just all this talk makes me, I want that. Yeah, I think it was Void Crew. That game was really fun.
Missiles and missile racks is already in the game. However, the next evolution could make this process even more immersive and tactical. Imagine crew members or automated systems physically moving these stored munitions from cargo containers to your ship's weapon systems during a refit. Or even having dedicated ordnance bays that serve as centralized hubs for rearming.
Yeah.
Additionally, we could see the introduction of open physicalized missile racks,
That's
similar
what
to
I want.
how real-world military units store munitions. These racks would allow crews to physically see the missiles or bombs they have on hand, and quickly load them into launchers during combat or after a skirmish. This hands-on approach would...
Like in this case, you should be taking off the empty thing? Like, I know there's 1 missile per, but if it was like 3 missiles, you just take off the base and put on the
add a whole new layer of realism and strategy to rearming. Managing the resources and munitions efficiently, especially on larger multi-crew ships, could make the difference between victory and defeat in prolonged engagements. And what if players could craft their own munitions? Imagine mining the resources you need and then crafting specialized ammo with different attributes, like increased damage but slower speed, or high accuracy rounds with lower range. This would not only add personalization to your loadout, but also introduce a new economic loop. Players could craft ammo, sell it on the market, or trade it with others. It adds a whole new dynamic to rearming, with resource gathering becoming part of the bigger picture.
Yep. Because then you go all the way down to the miner who's mining the lowest grade ore. All of a sudden, what they're doing is meaningful, right? And then you have the people who are like, I want to, have the biggest mining ship getting, this ore over here. But when you need to put everything together, it's not just the guy with the best ship. It's the guy with the worst ship that matters too. And that's hopefully a way to solve some of the problems this game created for itself.
All right, now let's talk repairs. Imagine a scenario where you have to dock your damaged ship at a station inside an asteroid field, near a black hole,
be important
in a radiation zone. Getting there is a challenge in itself, and once you arrive, you have to decide. Do you stay long enough for a full repair and risk further damage from environmental hazards? Or do you patch up the essentials and get out quickly? This could make repairs more strategic, especially in risky areas where you're vulnerable to more than just pirates. We could also see the introduction of repair drones that evolve over time. Now, it is CIG's intention to use drones in the repair gameplay loop, but we haven't seen anything or heard anything in a long time as far as their plans on when they want to implement it.
Yeah, and their intentions versus reality are very different.
Picture a fleet of drones that you or your crew can upgrade, making them more efficient or faster. Maybe they start out just patching up minor hull damage, but over time they learn to repair more complex systems, like shields or engines. Investing in your drone fleet could be key to surviving long expeditions, especially if you're flying a multi-crew ship where repairs need to happen on the go. And speaking of repairs,
what are drones even going to do, right? Like, I'm just trying to think of this one here because all of the components are on the interior of larger ships that have drones. And the only thing I could think of is instead of they would repair the hull automatically or whatever, and they would repair turrets. So they're like useful, and they could do the opposite. Obviously, if they could repair, they could salvage maybe, and they can salvage other ships to get the RMC they need to repair or whatever. But I don't see the need for drones anytime soon. So he's losing me a little bit with the drones, but yeah.
What if you needed specific materials like advanced composites or rare alloys to patch up your ship?
That's what I want. I don't want just RMC being this blanket thing, and I don't think it's going to be.
These materials could be mined, salvaged, or purchased from traders, creating a new economic loop in the game. Players would need to carry these materials on long missions, balancing their cargo hold between valuable loot and repair supplies. This would add another layer of strategic depth, forcing players to plan ahead and prioritize what they bring along with them in their journey. It's all
this is hypercopium on my end, is like a repair canister would need to be made up of 3 or 4 different materials. And as you're repairing your ship, it will automatically remove those materials from the ship, like for the ship that you're repairing. So you don't need like a specific, concoction to repair an 890 jump versus a Carrack. But you would have specific material types that would be in your backpack or the whatever that it's pulling from, and that it would pull the appropriate resources it needed to repair that hull or whatever. That's what I would like to see personally. But again, that's a very copium.
It's already confirmed
thing.
that with the upcoming engineering gameplay in 4.0,
this video is
we'll
awesome.
be tasked with repairing specific parts of our ships like
I love
engines,
thinking about this shit.
shields, and other key systems. Now, there's no repair all option, meaning we'll need to address each damaged component individually. But what if the system went even deeper? Imagine that each of these ship components like shields or engines has subcomponents that could also take damage once the main component reaches 0 health. For example, an engine might have a fuel regulator, cooling system.
What if subcomponents defined more characteristics of the main component? They are a thing, but we don't know how they're a thing really yet.
Couplings as subcomponents.
What I just explained is what they had planned many years ago. Are they doing that?
If the engine is heavily damaged, these subcomponents could be destroyed or malfunctioning, and you need to repair or replace them before you can bring the main engine back to full operational capacity. This adds an extra layer of complexity to repairs, where players wouldn't just be fixing a single system using a repair tool. They'd be diagnosing and addressing the underlying issues that keep that system from functioning. It would make the repair process more involved, especially for multi-crew ships, and could require specific tools or materials for certain subcomponents. This kind of mechanic could deepen the engineering gameplay even further, pushing players to manage their ship's health proactively. It could also have even larger implications for crafting and blueprints in the future. So what does all this mean for Star Citizen? These deeper mechanics, whether it's
it sounds like a good game.
Mining and refining quantanium for quantum fuel, manually dragging fuel lines to refuel multiple ships, or diagnosing and repairing individual subcomponents of your ship, could take the game to a new level of strategy and engaging gameplay. With the confirmed engineering gameplay in 4.0 allowing real-time damage monitoring, life support control, and power management, we can already see the foundations being laid for these systems to evolve further. Imagine
we need to see what they want to do with engineering big time.
Being able to fine-tune your ship's performance by using higher grade fuel and even overclocking key components to push them beyond their standard limits.
The problem is you said imagine, right? And that's all we can do still, is sit here and imagine while playing a game that unfortunately is this is an 18-minute video of what needs to be done, and it's a fraction of the things that need to be done for the game. Right? That's the situation we're in right now. And it took 9 months to do what they did so far this year. It's scary.
Something the developers have already talked about numerous times, and we know they're planning to add. Overclocking will introduce a new layer of decision-making for engineers, who will need to balance the benefits of increased performance with the risks of potentially overloading critical systems. This will deepen multi-crew dynamics significantly, as engineers and crew members will play more critical roles in ship management. CIG has already indicated that they're planning to make multi-crew ships even more relevant, to the point where it may sometimes be more beneficial to run together on a large ship rather than flying solo.
We need to get to that point.
Coordinating crew tasks,
it's more fun, but it doesn't make any sense,
such as component tuning and resupply, will become essential to surviving longer and more complex missions. These changes would mean that resupplying and repairing would no longer be afterthoughts. They'll be core elements of how you approach each mission. These interactions will push multi-crew cooperation to new heights as engineers take on more vital roles in keeping ships operational and optimized. Now, this could also apply to single ships as well, where it wouldn't just be about multi-crew ships, but rather having a larger group that can support the entire structure. This is where Star Citizen truly begins to evolve beyond a space sim and into a full-blown
using a fire extinguisher
MMO,
outside,
where every decision you make matters not just for your ship, but for the entire mission. In the end, the future of refueling, rearming, and repairing could add a wealth of new gameplay opportunities to Star Citizen. These features would challenge us to think ahead.
I'll keep reiterating my point. We can't use could. We can't use imagine if. We use it has to. It has to. We can't do this anymore. We have to work towards the game. These things have to be viable. They have to be important. They have to exist in a way that is not a tier 0 state. They have to be there. We can't keep doing this anymore. We can't keep going, CIG, it would be really nice if you did this, it would be really nice if you worked on this. No more. It would be nice. It's too long. It's been too much. They can't keep getting away with it. Exactly. It's no more. Stop and focus on all of these systems, and not just all of them, but all of them coming together cohesively. That's kind of the big part of the video that he's bringing here, is all these things are going to matter in this, imaginary, world that he's discussing here, right? And I'm not saying that in a bad way. Again, he started the video out saying, I want to imagine a little bit here. And imagining's fun. I don't want to imagine anymore. And I think we're at a crossroads here, or a fork in the road, where CIG could go down the wrong path, and they've been going down that path for a really long time. But they have an opportunity maybe to make a U-turn and come back and do the right things. And they got to do it, man. This year was horrible. Horrible. And it's really disappointing that this year ended up the way that it did, because a lot of what he is saying, not a lot, some of what he's saying is where they set the expectations. They set the bar at some of the stuff he mentioned in this video, and they missed it by a mile.
Plan strategically, and make decisions based on more than just combat.
This year started off great. I wouldn't argue that. The 323 was in testing forever. It didn't work well at all when it was launched to live. It didn't have nearly the amount of content that players were hoping it would. Then 324, which is 323.2, is a lot of the same. I don't think it started well, ended well. Because it ended poorly, it didn't start poorly, right? Because the expectations were laid out, and they missed the mark by a mile.
And no longer force players to rely completely on stations. Instead, they can take on the responsibility to create their own support structure.
Yep.
Whether you're a solo explorer trying to make it back from deep space.
And I would just piggyback off that just a tiny bit and be like, I don't want my support structure to just be my org or my friends or the immediate people that I'm playing with at that moment. I want my support structure to be the MMO, the player base. I want my support structure to be the player base.
Or a fleet commander organizing your forces. These mechanics will play a huge role in how you experience the verse. And while these ideas are just speculation for now, they offer a glimpse into how Star Citizen could truly push the boundaries of what a space MMO could be. Now, I want to share my personal thoughts on the future of these mechanics. I'll admit that I'm cautiously optimistic. Star Citizen has a history of aiming high, but it hasn't always made the best decisions when it comes to
he's given them the benefit of the doubt there.
Rolling out features. We've seen them promise big things before, only for the implementation to fall short. A prime example is Refueling, which has been largely unchanged since its initial release.
Unworking.
Even now, it often doesn't work as it should. It's frustrating because refueling should be a core mechanic, yet...
This is the difference between me and everybody else in the way they talk, is I say all the things he just said. I just say them so much more abrasively.
Players still run into bugs or find...
It doesn't fucking work.
Refueling stations aren't functioning properly. With that said, I understand that game development is a complicated process, and there's a lot happening behind the scenes that we as players don't always see. They're balancing a wide range of tasks and features, many of which are integral to moving the game closer to version 1.0. While I would love to see refueling fixed so it works more reliably, I get...
It wouldn't matter if they didn't fix it, because there's no point in using it. It's so much faster to just go to a landing pad and click a fucking button.
But there are internal priorities and challenges we might not be aware of. Fixing mechanics like refueling is important, but I also know that CIG is focused on major systems like server meshing, new gameplay loops, and developing the core game itself.
We continuously make excuses, and I don't know if he's necessarily doing that here, but I got blamed for making excuses when saying something somewhat similar. But what I'm trying to point out here is the problem that their priorities are, they got priorities over here, they got priorities over there. Is that the problem? Or is the problem that they're not prioritizing the teams that make the gameplay? And they're prioritizing other teams and other things that are irrelevant? Are they prioritizing release dates to get ships out? We're almost saying their priorities are perfect, and we understand they have different ones, and that's okay. And it's like, nah, man, it's not okay anymore, and it hasn't been okay for a really long time. And the people who worked on refueling are the same people who worked on mining, are the same people who worked on salvage, are the same people who are doing engineering. Where are these 1,000 developers? Why is it one small team that's doing all of that? Why is one of the reasons that Master Mode sucks? Because it's like a small group of people that are tasked to do this incredibly large task. Why is this a thing? Yeah, are they making Soul Singer? What's going on here?
It's all part of the process. And while I'm hopeful they'll eventually resolve these issues, I understand that development is a complex journey with a lot of moving parts. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into the future of Star Citizen's mechanics, smash that like button and subscribe for more updates, news, and speculation.
Well, I want to, before we end the video with like his call to actions or whatever, Franalu in chat says, preach, 30 people build the game and 1,170 people aren't visible to us. They're not visible to you because they're not on camera. That doesn't mean that they're not working. But I think what is very obvious is what the other developers say. Like, we've heard Yogi say, our team's a small team. You always hear these teams that are like absolutely critical to making the game fun say that they're small teams. And that's the one that I'm like, that's where my eyebrow raises. Right? That's where my eyebrow raises and go, where are all these people and what do they do? Right? And how many of these people are drawing spaceships and drawing up the plans on how they're going to sell them to us? And how many people are focusing on what we actually play? And I don't know if we'll ever know the answers to those questions, but it seems pretty obvious that the priorities aren't where we would like them to be, right?
Speculation on Star Citizen. If you've enjoyed this video and want to support the creation of more content like this, consider becoming a member of the channel. Your support will help keep the discussions going and ensure that I can
I like his icons.
Continue to provide in-depth analysis and updates on Star Citizen's development. Also, if you're interested in hearing my thoughts on how I believe CIG could push harder to get to 1.0, then you'll want to check out this video. Fly safe, pilots, and we'll see you in the verse.
Nice.
At the go.
That was a really good video. I think this is one of, if not the first time I've watched a video from his channel. I messaged him a few times. There's the link to that. Check out Havoc, HAV0K. Wow, I can't spell. Check him out if you guys haven't yet. Channel's great. I have caught videos on my own for sure watching. I reached out to him the other day and he okayed the reacts and said he enjoys them. So I'm excited to hear more of his takes in the future. Maybe we can go back in the past and watch some other videos that might be interesting. But that was really fun, and I love doing that stuff because that's all I want out of the game. Is self-reliance is not a good thing. but reliance on the player base is the best thing in an MMO, and that's what I want to see. Self-reliance can be a good thing, but entire self-reliance is a bad thing, and he's kind of preaching that very heavily here, and I love it, and I've really enjoyed the video, so I hope you guys did as well. And yeah, that was Havoc.